All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, adults of all ages, or anybody that is a football fanatic, we are here live once again for another weekly prediction video, in which this time we are going to be doing week 7 of the NFL season for the 2022 NFL season. Can't even believe it that it's already the 7th week of the season already. I feel like this season's already just flying by so fast. I can't even believe it. We're already entering almost 2 months of the season. It's just awesome. It's awesome, but also sad at the same time too, because by the time the postseason comes and the Super Bowl comes, and football season will be over until again next fall. So those are always some really tough things to deal with. But regardless, folks, we are here live. We're here to talk about Week 6 predictions. We're here to talk about analytics. We're here to talk about matchups. We're here to talk about quarterback matchups. We're here to just talk about anything in general that is related to the NFL or football in general. So, with all of that being said, please, if you are interested, if you are a football fanatic like I am in this podcast video, please be sure to put a like on this video. Be sure to also drop a comment down below. I like to have conversations with a lot of people. I want to make sure that you guys are being entertained, and I want to make sure that you guys are enjoying everything that I have to provide to you at this point in time. So, with that all being said, drop a like and please leave a comment down below and engage in conversation with me so that way I know that you guys are interested in everything that I have to offer. Also, please do me a favor. Please hit that subscribe button as well. Please subscribe to this YouTube channel. Please also hit that notification bell because the more that I see you guys being able to be able to tune into all the live streams that I have going on, the better my YouTube channel is going to be. The more that you guys talk about it, the more people are going to watch it, and the more people that I will have engaged in the content that I provide to everybody. So please do all those things. Do me a solid, like, comment, subscribe. Okay, and with all that being said, we are going to start with Week 7 picks. I see one person is on, whoever it is out there. Thank you so much for tuning in. It means a lot. Want to be able to make sure that you guys are tuning in. Want to make sure you guys are getting yourselves involved as best as possible. So before we do get started, we'll wait a couple of minutes so that way we can have more people tune in. I will just make some mention too. These matchups for this week there's not that many in particular matchups that are probably like the best matchups of this week. Usually, if you look at the thumbnail that I make for these videos before I upload them and when I have them for live and everything, just sometimes I try to make them as like the best matchups as possible and talk about maybe what I think is probably going to be like the best game of the week. And for this week, there wasn't really anything that really strikes home to me as like being like the best matchup. Not even the primetime games are really like the best matchup. So I just kind of picked something that I kind of thought would be interesting to see. So for this week, and we'll talk about that game in a little bit. But the Lions and the Cowboys game is going to be kind of interesting to see how that one goes. And the reason behind that is because Dak Prescott is going to be expected to be coming back this week, and we'll see how he does after the few weeks off that he had from the season. We enjoyed watching Cooper Rush. I thought he was very manageable. He was able to make some big moments, some key moments for the Cowboys, and we'll see if there's going to be any quarterback controversy going on moving forward now that Dak is back, and we'll see how he plays, if he plays any better or worse than Cooper Rush, and maybe we'll see more of Cooper Rush again in the future. But regardless, though, it'll be Dak's return game. Should be a nice game to see, and we'll talk more about that when we get to it. But that's my thumbnail for this week of Dak Prescott and Jared Goff. So, with all that being said, let's talk about the first game happening tomorrow night, Thursday Night Football, prime video that probably nobody will watch, is the New Orleans Saints, who are traveling their way to the Arizona Cardinals to play the Cardinals. So the Cardinals for this game, I don't really quite understand why they're still favored in this game due to with all the injuries and everything that's going on with them right now. I don't get why they're really favored the way that they are, but they're favored by 2.5 points. So rumor has it that DeAndre Hopkins is going to be back for this game. So we're going to see how that really plays out for the Cardinals. We'll see if he really makes a big difference for this offense for the Cardinals that really struggled bad last week against the Seahawks. A really bad defense in Seattle, if I'm being quite honest with you. There's some things about the Cardinals. They've been kind of flashy this year and a little bit streaky. They've been on and off, hit and miss, and they haven't really been the most consistent or the most reliable team in the NFL this season by far, which is kind of expected. I wasn't really expecting them to really do a whole lot this season, even with last year and their flukiness to get through the playoffs and almost win that division, even though the Rams came back and they ended up winning that division in the Super Bowl. So the Cardinals have been very fluky this year. Alrighty, folks. Sorry about that. I'm not sure exactly what happened. That this always happens to my computer every single time. Not sure why that happened, but anyway, we're back live. Thank you for everybody for your patience. So we're talking about the Saints. We're talking about the Cardinals Thursday night game. So this for this case, like I was saying, DeAndre Hopkins is supposed to be back this week for the Cardinals. We'll see if that's really gonna revamp and really make this offense explode like the way that they did last year. We'll see if that really turns out to be the case. I don't really think it's going to be really anything, really worth really mentioning or really talking about that much. But we'll see how the Cardinals do. they're also dealing with some injuries right now. We know that Marquise Brown was already injured last week in last week's game against the Seahawks, and they significantly struggled bad, especially Kyler Murray did against that really dreadful defense for the Seahawks. So it was a bit of a shame, bit of a disappointment to really see the Cardinals struggle in that game. But at the same time, not really that, not that surprising because just the Cardinals as a whole are not very good. Now, on the other side of the ball, you take a look at the Saints, and the Saints are not any really, they're not really any better than the Cardinals. They're also dealing with a lot of injuries too. Michael Thomas, I don't know when Michael Thomas is coming back to play football. It's probably going to be a little bit. Chris Olave should be back this week. I think he'll make a significant impact on this offense and maybe see a lot more targets with Andy Dalton or Jameis Winston. That's another thing. We don't really know if Jameis Winston is playing, but honestly, like I said before, I said it about a week or two ago when he was out, and I feel like this offense seems to be doing a lot better, and they're more explosive with Andy Dalton, surprisingly, than they were with Jameis Winston. And I think that's kind of like a quarterback change that they should really move forward with keeping Dalton as the starter and the Winston as the backup. Because I feel like with Andy Dalton, and really Andy Dalton has been a very good backup quarterback, and he's done a good job with being the starter for a while. And with the limited amount of players that the Saints do have on the team, I think Andy Dalton is doing the best that he possibly can. I think he's playing his best football really in a while, not like the most elite player that he is, but he's been playing serviceable. He has been playing some really good football as the backup role and going in and taking over for Jameis Winston, and he's been taking that role pretty well for the most part. The Saints are, the Saints are not the most complete team. They do have a lot of holes, especially with that offensive line. And Alvin Kamara is just not the same old Alvin Kamara that he used to be. He's still good, but he's not anywhere like he used to be. And that's a bit of a problem too, because if the Saints really want to run the ball a little bit, they're very limited with how much they can use him and how much they can use Mark Ingram to in the backfield. So they got to get the passing game going. And with all the injuries that are going on right now, it's very tough for the Saints. But another game that's not really worth a whole lot worth watching, but I'm taking the Saints to win this game. I take the Saints to cover the spread at 2.5, the plus 2.5, because I feel like with the Cardinals are just kind of a mess right now. They're not really anything really worth writing home about. And with the Saints, they're not really anything better, like I said. But I feel like with the Saints are more better coached than the Cardinals are. I think they're a bit more disciplined in football. I think they're more physical than the Cardinals are. I think they can beat them in any given way. The defense for the Saints is going to be one of the biggest issues for this team, because the defense of the Saints really hasn't been anywhere near the level of talent of where they really should be, which is a bit disappointing. But their offense with Andy Dalton looks like they're serviceable. They're looking like they're, it's a new team now with the offense starting to get rolling and everything. And the defense is struggling. But I take the Saints to win. I think I take the veteran with Andy Dalton over Kyler Murray, and I take the coaching staff over the Cardinals and Cliff Kingsbury. So I'll take the Saints to win. I'll take the Saints to cover. Not a whole lot more to talk about there. So that's how I'm going to do it. Saints to cover and Saints to win the straight up. All right, next game. The Cleveland Browns, who are traveling to one of their rivals in the AFC North, the Baltimore Ravens, who are 6.5-point favorites. Both teams are coming off with some dreadful losses from last week. The Ravens, I can't say they played dreadful because they really didn't play all that bad against the Giants. But really the most vocal parts of where they really did play bad was mostly offensive line. And then the last few minutes of the game is really definitely on the defense for sure. This Ravens team is just so inconsistent with the team that they are right now. They're just so inconsistent. You can't really read what this team is going to do. You don't know which defense of the Ravens are going to show up. And quite truthfully, this team could really be 6-0 right now if they really wanted to be, but they're not. They're 3-3. They're struggling for a reason. It's just because that the defensive coordinator is awful. They can't get anything They can't stop anybody in the fourth quarter. They can't hold on to big leads. They're turning into teams like the Falcons and the Chargers, and both of those teams have been playing considerably well this season, and the Ravens just seem like they can't stop anybody. They're not the same defense. They're not the same team as they used to be, and that's really sad to say considering with the coaching staff that they do have, like John Harbaugh, who has been a good coach all these years, has been good for the Ravens, but he has not really done anything to make this team really anything scary. So the Ravens really aren't anything impressive, and it's something that I kind of thought earlier in the season they really wouldn't be anything too crazy to really write home about. But the Browns on the other side are not really anything better or more special than the Ravens are. And a lot of that is because they're missing Deshaun Watson. If Deshaun Watson was playing, I think there would be a bunch different outcome and a different look for the Browns if he was not suspended. But with Jacoby Brissett, you're very limited to what you're able to do offensively. Amari Cooper is really the only good receiver for this Browns team, and it's someone that really is consistent and doing well. Nick Chubb is probably one of the best running backs in the league, and he's doing really well. And Kareem Hunt is just not really playing up to standards where he really should be in this point in his career, and he's not really getting a whole lot of touches like he used to either. So that makes it very difficult for the Browns to really run the kind of scheme that they used to run with both running backs getting split time and getting a lot of yardage out of it. But the defense of the Browns is not very good right now. They're not playing the best kind of football, and I think a lot of it really is more so of the secondary and the pass rush. They struggle in that significantly. They can stop the run at times, but it's a little bit inconsistent with how they stop the run. But they can do a little bit of that more than they can do of the pass rush and the secondary. So I take a look at this game here, and it's definitely not anywhere as exciting it it would have been earlier in the season without really taking the consideration of the Deshaun Watson suspension, which makes it difficult for this team. But I'm taking the home team. I'm taking the Ravens. The Browns are just a very tricky team. I can't seem to really figure out this Browns team to really do anything. But I don't think the Ravens cover the spread. I think it's a closer game than people think. It's going to be tough for the Ravens to be able to slow down what the running backs of Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, and probably will struggle a little bit in the passing game too, because as we saw last week, the only kind of way, and I've said it so many times before, I sound like a broken record when I say this, but the only way the Ravens defense is going to get pressure on any quarterback is if they blitz. And that's what they did last week against Daniel Jones and the Giants. And that's the only way that they're going to get a lot of pressure on a quarterback is if they do a blitz and get it and go into a very tight defense. So that's really where they're going to struggle with stopping the run, I believe, and just a very inconsistent, very overrated defense of the Ravens. But I think they're still the better team. I still think they're the team that's more likely to win at home than the Browns are. The Browns are just very tricky to figure out. I can't really seem to get them really figured out at this point in the season. And without Deshaun Watson, that really hurts a lot. So with that being said, I'm taking the Ravens to win the game straight up. But as far as the spread, I don't think they quite cover the spread. I think it's a closer game than people think. However, it could potentially be a higher scoring game than people think. So maybe look into that parlay for this weekend if you are planning to bet on some of these games. All right, next up, we've got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who are traveling their way to the worst, and I mean the worst NFL team for this season, the 2022 season, in the Carolina Panthers. So the Bucs are 10.5-point favorites. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it, so I'm just going to say right now my straight up is going to be very simple. The Bucs. I know the Bucs are struggling right now. We all know that. They didn't have a good game against the Steelers last week offensively. Defense, they're still very good. They're still very, very strong run defense that can stop anybody against the run. And they're still very good in the pass rush. They get a very good pass rush going, despite losing 3 games already and really where they weren't all that great was really at the end of the Steelers game, which ultimately led them to the loss last week in Pittsburgh. But the Panthers are just not very good, man. If I'm being honest with you right now, the Panthers are just not a very good team. They are so bad that there's Sorry, guys. I have no clue what's going on with this computer tonight, but it is starting to really frustrate me because I just want to get this picks video done with and be able to talk with you guys. But yes, I'm going back to this game with the Bucks and the Panthers. I'm picking the Bucks straight up. I definitely would not hesitate to take the 10.5 points because there's just so much about the Panthers that are just they're just not very good, guys. The Panthers are just not a very good team. There's nothing to really like about the Panthers. The only thing that's good enough about the Panthers that's watchable is how they play defense. That's really it. Their offense, they can't get anything started. They don't have a good quarterback at all. They don't have a consistent run game going on. Although Christian McCaffrey is a phenomenal running back, that's definitely not discrediting him by any means. But the Panthers are just not a very good team. They're not a very good team at all. They're struggling significantly. People want to leave left and right. And Robbie Anderson just got traded away to Arizona this week, which also, by the way, could help the Cardinals a little bit, but I don't think it's really going to help them too much or make a big difference in that aspect for Anderson to be the wide receiver 2 for them. But yeah, everybody wants out of Carolina. They're cleaning house. They definitely are rebuilding. Not a lot more to say about this game, but the Bucks are going to win. The Bucks are going to cover, and the Panthers are just in full rebuild mode. And quite truthfully, the Panthers probably may not win another game this year, just because of how bad they really are. All right, next game. This is actually a really, really good matchup. I like this matchup a lot, and it's actually, I believe it's probably going to be a similar kind of game that we saw last week with the Bengals and against the Saints. And this week it's going to be the Falcons who travel their way to Cincinnati to play the Bengals. The Bengals are favored by 6.5 points, guys. To me, I don't understand why people are so disrespectful to this Falcons team. I just don't get it. I don't get it at all. This Falcons team is a team that has proven themselves to win any game at any given time, whether if it's offense, whether if it's defense. That's surprisingly been well this year. Special teams, you name it. They get so much disrespect. They get crapped on every single time when they're out there, and it's just very disgusting of how critical people are against this Falcons team. And the Falcons are really just a good overall team. They're very consistent. They get themselves going. They're very they're very competitive. They're a very competitive team. Arthur Smith is doing a phenomenal job with working with Marcus Mariota and getting this passing game going a little bit. And then with the run game of Cordell Patterson, who is still the best running back for this team, no question about it, who is a freak of nature in football. And like I said, their defense has also been surprising this year, especially when you look at secondary and when you're looking at pass rush. They seem very consistent. They look like they're confident. They're not just giving up like big plays here and there or big stupid plays here and there like they have in years past or choke games away. They're good. The Falcons are a good team. They could give the Bengals some problems, but the Bengals, on the other hand, are another team that's maybe a bit overrated right now, I guess you could say. But I still believe in this Bengals team. I still think they're still a good team. Joe Burrow is one of the best quarterbacks in this league still. Jamar Chase is phenomenal. T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, Joe Mixon, Hayden Hurst, who's been doing a pretty good job with getting involved in this on this team too, which I really like to see too, because not many tight ends are really doing anything much for them this year. But I like this. I like both teams. I like the Bengals. I was very high on them this year, and it's just really tough for me to really say that the Bengals are going to win this game. My heart really wants to go with the Falcons because I like the story that the Falcons have had this year. I like how tough they've been this year, but I got to go with the Bengals for the straight up though, because I feel like there's just so much more talent with the Bengals versus the Falcons, offensively at least, because you just can't go wrong with Jamar Chase, who's going to be very hard to cover in this game. T. Higgins, I know he's injury prone, but when he is very healthy, he is very good. And Tyler Boyd, who's also very good too, who he gets himself involved when he can. Hayden Hurst, who's also getting involved in the offense, and he's doing a fine job with what he's doing. Joe Mixon, who is their best running back, but he's not given enough credit for doing what he is doing for this team, or being given the amount of snaps or rushes that he deserves to get, because he is a great running back, and when he does play, this team looks better. But I'm taking the Bengals to win. As far as the spread goes, that's a lot of points. I think 6.5 is just too much to really count on. And if you are going to bet against the spread for the Bengals, I would probably wait until at least Saturday night into Sunday, because I think that spread might drop down some, because I think 6.5 points is a lot for a team that really hasn't played all that great and really has won way too many closer games than they really had. Like last week, I think they should have really lost to the Saints. The Saints were really playing well up to the last few minutes of the game, the fourth quarters, where they really fell apart, and the Bengals just outplayed them in the fourth quarter and ultimately got that win. So, there's a lot of things about the Bengals right now that is very sickening. That's not really all that great, and that's mostly offensive line. But the defense also didn't play all that great last week either, giving up too many yardages, too many big plays, you name it. But I still take the Bengals to win. I still think they still win the game straight up. And as far as the spread goes, that's something that you kind of have to look into a little bit closer as Sunday approaches. All right, next game, we've got the Detroit Lions, who are traveling to the Dallas Cowboys. And the Dallas Cowboys, as I talked about earlier, who are returning Dak Prescott this week, who's going to be medically cleared. The Cowboys are favored by 7. Now, I would say, if you really want to, do you feel confident about it? And quite truthfully, I probably would take the 7 points as the spread for this game. But honestly, I think it's going to be more of a low scoring game than people really think. I think they can cover the spread, but I think it's a low scoring game, and I'll tell you why. The offense for the Cowboys hasn't really been anywhere up to par where they've been in years past. But with the Lions and what they have a good offense when everybody's healthy. I mean, DeAndre Swift is a very good running back in his own right and is doing a fine job with getting involved in the offense. And then you've got Amon-Ra St. Brown, who's a beast of receivers for this team, and he really, really is a big vocal point for the offense. And Jared Goff, when he is passing the ball, and they do have a good offense. They really do, and they surprised a lot of teams this year offensively, which is nice to finally see them really get recognized for the offense. Now, as far as defense goes, their defense is terrible. They could be the second to worst, if not the worst defense in this league. So that's why it makes it very difficult for me to pick the Lions to straight up, because just knowing what this offense, with the injuries that they do have right now, it's going to be a little bit more trickier. And I think the defense of the Cowboys, as good as they've been, I think the Cowboys win the straight up and really, make a statement and really give Jared Goff some time. He'll keep Jared Goff in the game. I think they'll keep him in the game for sure for as long as they can. I think Jared Goff can help them get involved as much as they can, because of how the offense for the Cowboys have been struggling a little bit this year. But regardless, though, I think the Cowboys are still the better team. They still have a very, very, very great defensive line, uh, pass rush, secondary of Trayvon Diggs, who's been doing really well. DeMarcus Lawrence and Micah Parsons, who's also very good as well for the pass rush of the Cowboys. That they could be the best pass rush this year in football, if I'm being honest with you. That's how good they really are. I'm taking the Cowboys straight up. I would take the Cowboys to cover the 7 points. I think that's very possible for them to do. But I would also keep in mind, too, that this could be a more of a low scoring game and more of a physical, classic football game where you might be seeing a lot more run um, for this team. So I'm taking the Cowboys. I'm taking the Cowboys to win and cover. As much as I really like Detroit, as much as I would like to really see them win, I just don't think it's going to happen this week against a very good defensive team of the Cowboys. Another game that should be really good this week, and I like this matchup a lot. It's actually kind of a similar matchup to the Falcons and the Bengals, and that's the Jaguars, who are traveling to are they traveling to New York, or are they in Jacksonville? I believe they're in Jacksonville. That's my apologies. I should have double checked that real quick. But yes, they will be in Jacksonville this week. The Giants will be at least to play the Jags. I'm taking the Giants. I'm going to take the Giants right now, and I'll tell you why. And why I'm so confident in that. The reason why I'm taking the Giants to win this game and why I'm taking the +3, because the Giants, when they've played really good teams this year, I feel like the Giants have been playing very good defensive games. They've been playing very good offensively. They struggle a little bit usually in the offense, and where they kind of lack a little bit and they don't really get anywhere in the first half of football games, where they come back in the second half and they end up, winning or losing just very short. And I think that's what's going to happen this week. I think they're going to do exactly what they did with the Green Bay Packers and the Baltimore Ravens. They're going to be down for a little bit, and they're going to make their way back up into winning. Because I think with Jacksonville, as good as this team on paper is, and they really aren't a bad team. Guys, the Jags are not a bad team at all. They have good talent around them. They're making the best of what they have and what they got in free agency, but they're just not very consistent. That's the only thing about the Jags that makes it very difficult to rank them and makes it very difficult for me to really pick them because of how inconsistent they are. And we saw that last week when they played the Colts. That was kind of more of like I guess you can call that more of a wake-up call for the Jags, being, very inconsistent and just not playing up to, the expectations or up to par to where they should be. That's why it makes it very difficult for me to pick the Jags. But I like the way the Giants are playing this year. They don't have that much talent. In fact, they probably have maybe very similar talent to the Jags, just by a slight here, if not better. But I think the Giants are just a better coach team. Brian Dable is doing everything that he possibly can to ensure that Daniel Jones is getting involved in the offense, making sure that he's content in the offense that he has run. And Wink Martindale is just putting together just a phenomenal, physical, aggressive, and just overall very good defensive play for them. So that's why I'm taking the Giants. I take the Giants. I take the 3 points. I think it's a big game. It's a big game for the Giants, and it's also a very big game for the Jags too, because if they lose this game, it could mean some big differences for when it comes time to the division crown and possibly even playoffs. All right, next game. The Green Bay Packers, who I don't understand why. I don't understand why they're still favored by a reasonable amount of points. They are 4.5 point favorites against the Washington Commanders. The Commanders are not very good. We know that. They're probably one of the worst teams right now in football. They're just not playing very good. And with Carson Wentz being injured, he's not playing this week. Now that's going to be Taylor Heineke time. So do I think Taylor Heineke could make more of a spark for this team? I mean, it's very well likely they could, but there's just a lot about this Commanders team that's just very flawed. The offensive line is beat up. The defense is highly overrated, and they're just not playing up to where they should be, especially with a good defensive line on paper. They're just dealing with a lot of stuff going on right now. Brian Robinson, I think, is probably going to be, for the rest of the season at least, the starter for this team. And when he did play last week, he did look pretty good. I think he looked manageable. I think he looked elusive, but I don't call him a quality, like my number one overall pick of a running back for this team. Just because of how much this team is struggling right now with like offense, defense, uh, special teams, you name it. They're just struggling significantly. But the Packers, on the other hand, as we all know, they're also struggling with receivers. They just do not have a consistent or elite talented receiver on this team. And Aaron Rodgers is definitely missing Devontae Adams now. The offensive line is also struggling. The defense is highly overrated. Coaching staff is overrated. That's why it makes it any more very difficult to pick the Packers, but I'm still going to pick the Packers one more time as a straight up and possibly even cover the spread because of just it's because of a lot of things. But one of the reasons why I'm picking the Packers is because Aaron Rodgers is still Aaron Rodgers. He's still going to play the best football that he possibly can and what he can provide for this team. And even without the tight, really solid receivers or big playmakers for the team that the Packers are missing completely, there's still some things that they can take advantage of. The very overrated defense of the Commanders, it's very overrated, not playing well at all, and they can take advantage of that with their receivers. The only thing that really scares most teams, I would think, for this Commanders team is really scary Terry McLaurin. That's probably the only thing that I would probably be mostly scared of, but everything else really about their team is just meh. Not really anything special. So that's why I'm taking the Packers to win. I'm taking the Packers to cover the spread. And if they do not win this game, I mean, I don't know what else I'm going to do because this team will be in serious trouble if they do not win this week and if they lose a third straight. All right, next up, we've got the Indianapolis Colts, a team that's coming off of a big win against the Jacksonville Jags, coming into this Music City to play the Tennessee Titans. This is a division game. The last time these two teams have played, the Titans pretty much took advantage, were in control of this game. They did allow the Colts to come back a little bit, make it more of a closer game than it really was on paper. But the Titans took advantage of that, and they did a really good job. Now, as far as this time and how that's going to go, it's going to be a different story, just based off of how motivating and how excited that this Colts team really is right now to really make a big name for themselves and maybe even take over the division. Now, there are a lot of flawed things about the Colts, and we do know that already. Matt Ryan is getting old. He's not really playing anywhere that he used to play at all. His arm strength is not there. He can't really scramble around. He can't really run outside of the pocket anymore like he used to be able to do every now and then. And with running backs injured right now with Jonathan Taylor or Nyheim Hines, which either one of them could possibly be back for this week and probably could make the whole world's difference for the offense. The only thing they really do have is Michael Pittman. Alec Pierce, who came off with like his very first game-winning touchdown of his career against the Jags, which really some people may say is really not that impressive. It's not, but it's good for the rookie. It's a good rookie moment. So he deserves a pass there. There's a lot of things I like about the Colts, but there's also a lot of things that that also kind of scares me too, and that really mostly is because of the offensive line and how overrated they've really been this year. They've been really banged up on that offensive line this year. Defense, on the other hand, is fine. I think their defense is good enough to make some big plays if they really wanted to, and that sort of thing. I think their special teams is still pretty good. Now, as far as the Titans go, the Titans are still also a team that could very well win this division as well. It's going to be very tough, though, for them to win this game because I think the Colts defense is pretty darn good, despite with all the injuries and the problems that they do cover right now. But I got to go with the Colts because with the Titans just don't have the A.J. Brown material like they used to have. They don't have A.J. Brown anymore that really was like a deep threat for teams and really scare teams to, throw the ball to. but yeah, this Titans team is just not anywhere that they used to be. I mean, it was nice that they're 3-2 now and they're battling back, or at least trying to. But I think the Colts win this game. I feel like the Colts are really the better team, slightly better coached, maybe more of a little bit of an overstatement, because I think you got to credit Mike Vrabel too with what he does. He does a really good job with getting his teams prepared to win games. That's why he's 3-2. But the Colts also have that similar vibe too. They're both very similar teams. They run pretty much the same offense. And with Frank Reich, he's a very good coach. Frank Reich's a very good coach. They have a good coaching staff. They have a bit of a dysfunctional organization, but what NFL team organization isn't dysfunctional? But I like what the Colts are bringing right now. I think they're just feeling more. I feel like they feel more motivated to win more games. I feel like they're more physical. I feel like the defense is better than the Titans defense, which kind of says a lot. But I'm taking the Colts. I'm taking the Colts to win the game. As far as the spread goes, you could go with either the Titans spread of 2.5, or you can go with the plus 2.5 for Indy. So I'm taking the Colts to win straight up. I think the Colts do what they can to muster a win through this one. I know they've had some difficulties against the Titans in years past, but I think this is their time. I think they're going to come back and they're going to be able to win this game and possibly take advantage of maybe take ownership into the top of the division of the AFC South, which isn't very good, by the way. All right, next game is the Houston Texans. The Houston Texans, who are one of the worst teams in the NFL, although I kind of have defended them this year. They really have not been all that bad this year. And I think with the Titans and how they, with the Titans and how, not Titans, I'm sorry, with the Texans of how they really been this year, uh, you know, sorry guys, I apologize for all the technical difficulties that's been going on tonight. I have no idea what's going on, but at least it doesn't stop my stream and it doesn't really really affect too much of what's going on. So that's really good for me. I still have internet connection. I'm still able to stream. So that's a good thing to see. But As far as this game goes here, the Texans and the Raiders, I'm going with the Raiders to win this game. The Raiders really showed a lot of promising things last week when they, or 2 weeks ago rather, when they played against the Chiefs. I think that was a kind of a game that they should have really won. They had a lot of plenty of opportunities to win, but despite with some things that they did have to deal with a little bit, made it very hard for them to be able to win that game, which is very disappointing. The way that they lost this game and how the defense really was playing very well for a half of the game, but then they fell apart again in the second half. That was kind of disappointing to see. But there are better times for the Raiders, I think. I think the Raiders are still a good team despite their 1-4 record. I still think they're a good team. I think they can get moving with the passing game once Derek Carr really can get figured out with Devontae Adams. Even if he even does play in this game, as far as I know, he will play in this game, even though he was just charged with misdemeanor with pushing the cameraman. That was something that was very wrong on his part. But the running game of the Raiders is also getting much better now. I think they're utilizing Jacobs way more than they ever had before. He had a really excellent game against the Chiefs last week, which was kind of nice to see. And so that's why I take the Raiders. I think they can take advantage of that. I think if Josh Jacobs can play the way that he played against the Chiefs and ran all over their defense, they should be able to run over a very dreadful run defense of the Texans run defense. Now, as far as the secondary for the defense for the Texans, it really has not been all that bad. I think they've been very underrated in the passing, being able to protect and cover receivers. I think they've been doing quite well with it. There are some things I do like about the Texans. I think they can run the ball if they want to, and I think they're scary good when they do run the ball. I think they can scare a lot of teams when they do run the ball with Pierce. And as far as the passing game goes, Brandon Cooks is still a very good receiver that can scare them. And Davis Mills, he may not be the best quarterback. He's more of like a lower tier quarterback for this league. But when he is on and he has a good game, he can put up some numbers. So, but I don't think he's going to do that against the Raiders. I think the Raiders are more desperate for a win. I think they do get this win here. They'll go 2-4. And as far as covering the spread, I don't think they'll cover the spread. I think it's going to be a closer game, but I think it's going to be more of a low-scoring game where they're going to have to use Josh Jacobs to the best of their ability and have him hope and pray and have him play the way that he played against the Chiefs last week. All right, next game, we got the New York Jets, the Jets, Jets, who I personally have been praising for the amount of weeks that they've been playing. The Jets are a good team, and they're playing a very, very, very dreadful Broncos offensive team. I'm taking the Jets. I'm going to make this short, sweet, and to the point. The Broncos offensively cannot get anything started. The only good football I have seen from the Broncos so far was one quarter of football. Is the only time I've seen the Broncos play good football was one quarter, and that came last week. So thank goodness that this team is finally not playing prime time this week. Finally. They've already had like 4 primetime games. It's absolutely absurd. I'm taking the Jets. I like what the Jets are doing right now. Their defense, everybody, Quincy Williams, and CJ Mosley. Guys, this defense of the Jets is young, hungry, but a very physical, scary defense. No one wants to play this defense right now. Just ask Aaron Rodgers. He just got off with playing this game. He got his butt kicked against the Jets in this Jets defense. I'm taking the Jets to win. And as far as the spread goes, it's -1. I would take the Jets +1. I'm going to take the Jets +1. I like what this Jets team is doing. Offensively is probably going to be a little bit more challenging than people think. But I think where they can have some success, that the Broncos have been doing well, and their defense has been really, really good. Probably at least a top 10 defense in the league right now. But I think where they might have a little bit of struggle with is the run game. And the run game for the Jets has been very good this year with Breece Hall, who's a beast, and Michael Carter, who has gotten some split time too, and he's pretty good too. but they have a good run game. Well, that'll be interesting to see how the Broncos take care of that. As far as the receiver ends, I don't think you're going to see a lot of passing from Zach Wilson because I feel like with the receivers that they do have, Corey Davis, Garrett Wilson is pretty good, and a couple of other receivers too. I think they're very limited to receivers, and it just depends on really the day of how the Jets are feeling like playing in the passing game and how Zach Wilson's playing. I think they could struggle a little bit with the passing game, but I think they might have some success with the running game. But I think this is going to be a low scoring, close game that's going to give both teams very difficult times of being able to win. So I would take the spread, the +1 for the Jets, and I probably would also do the under for this game too, because I think this game is going to be a very low scoring and close game for that matter. All right, next we've got probably one of the games of the week, and there's not that many good games this week. It's going to be the Kansas City Chiefs, who are traveling to San Fran to play the 49ers. So the Chiefs are favored by 2.5. The 49ers are beat up right now. The 49ers are a team that's beat up. They're not really playing up to par of where they really should be or where you would hope they really would be. But they do have some injuries on the offensive line. Trent Williams being like the biggest one for the Niners on that line. So that's going to be interesting to really see how he's going to do against a very underrated pass rush for the Chiefs that's been playing not too bad lately. They had a good defensive game last week against the Bills, which was, I would say, pretty impressive. That's actually pretty impressive to have a good defensive game against a very good offense of the Buffalo Bills. The Chiefs, however, on offense is too much for the 49ers to handle. They don't have a ton of depth in the offense like they used to. They don't have Tyreek Hill anymore. Travis Kelce is still very good. He's really probably one of their best players on this team. The offensive line looks a lot better than they had, in years past. And Patrick Mahomes is still playing very good football. The other things that really kind of do concern me a little bit is really the inconsistencies of the run game. I feel like when they run the ball, they run it very well. And then when they don't run it very well, it's a very off day for the Chiefs on the ground. That's why it's very hard to really say how their run game is going to be, because I feel like their run game is just not there, non-existent whatsoever. But they could also beat you in the passing game too. And with the injuries that the Niners do have right now, I see the Chiefs taking advantage of that. So with that being said, I'm taking the Chiefs to win. I'm taking the Chiefs to cover the spread. And it should be a good game. I think it's going to be a tougher game than people think. I think it might be a closer game than people think. At least a touchdown, maybe even less for this team. I don't think the Chiefs are really historically good with covering the spread. They usually aren't. But I think in this case, with considering the injuries that the Niners do have right now, they very well could cover the spread for this week and get a win against the spread. So that's what I'm doing this week. The Chiefs are covering, and they're going to win this straight up. That's what I am taking for right now, because I just don't really know what that Niners team is really looking like right now with all the injuries. All right, next game we've got the Seattle Seahawks, a very underrated, kind of a weird Seahawks team that can be good, but really aren't that great, against the Chargers, who we've seen already that's very flawed. They struggle in so many different areas and dealing with a lot of injuries, but the Chargers are still favored. And they're not just favored by like a point or 2 points. They're favored by 6 points. I think that's a lot of points for this kind of a team that really hasn't really been playing up to where they've been. And that's not necessarily the fault of the players, because there's a very super talented team. But a lot of it really comes down to coaching. I think the coaching is very, very subpar. It's not anywhere like they usually are. They're very aggressive on fourth down. That's what Brandon Staley is. He's very aggressive on fourth down. And when he is aggressive, he's not successful with being aggressive, is what it comes down to. He's really not. And the defense of the Chargers is good, haven't really seen him do anything special yet, but without Joey Bosa too, that kind of hurts them quite a bit. Uh, Khalil Mack had a good game last week. He should have another good game against the Seahawks this week. As far as J.C. Jackson, I think if J.C. Jackson gets more developed in this defense, as far as like him, is if he could really get himself going with what they've got, this team could probably do good against the Seahawks offense. But the Seahawks offense is very interesting to me. Geno Smith. He's playing past expectations of what anybody thought he would have been this year. I was not even expecting Geno Smith to put up the numbers that he is putting up right now, or even playing up to the talent level that he is right now. Is he anywhere near elite talent? No, not where anywhere close to that. But he's very manageable. He's serviceable. He's getting you wins, which is something that I didn't think the Seahawks would get this year. I didn't think they would get 3 wins this early in the season, but they're doing all the right things offensively. And the defense, however, is the worst defense in the NFL, or at least the second to worst defense in the NFL right now, which is something that the Chargers will take advantage of a lot of with Austin Eckler. I think Austin Eckler will have another great game on the ground. And for fantasy purposes like myself that has him in one of my leagues, that's going to be really another good game for him. Justin Herbert, I think, can also have a really good game too if he can stay consistent and if his receivers can also be very, electrifying and being able to break coverages and doing what they can. Now, as far as I know, Keenan Allen should be back in this game. I think he should be back. Nothing has really been said or heard much about him, but I think he should be back this week. Mike Williams could also be very good too. He's a very good wide receiver too. Josh Palmer too. I know a lot of people have trashed Josh Palmer, but he's been doing pretty well, stepping up to the plate and making like the offense for the Chargers look good. And I gotta also say too, with the pair of running backs that they do have, with just like not just Austin Eckler, but Sony Michel also is very good in the very short downs, like 3rd and 1 and 3rd and short. Like he's also very good to have too. That could also see some little bit of split time too in the rushing game and probably even the passing game too. But that's probably more of Austin Eckler, getting him more involved in the passing game. But I like the Chargers. I still like the Chargers despite with the injuries right now. But I like what the Seahawks are doing. I appreciate everything that they are doing right now. I think they're very, very unique in their own way. They're, very fluky. They're very fun to watch. But the Chargers just have superior talent still. Even with the injuries that they do have, they still have very good talent that makes them too much of a heavy favorite for me to pick against them. So I'm going to take the Chargers to win this week in LA. And as far as the spread goes of 6, it's very possible they could win by 6. I would probably take the spread if you really wanted to. I would either that, or you could also potentially look into the over-under, which is very well possible. It could be over a certain amount of points for the week. And you could also look at the parlays too for that game. All right, next game we got 2 more games left. We got the Pittsburgh Steelers, a very dreadful, bad Pittsburgh Steelers team on Sunday night, going to Miami to play the Dolphins. I'm making this short, sweet, to the point. Tua, I don't believe Tua's going to be there. I think he's still questionable. I don't think we're going to see him play this week. They're saying that he is playing. I'm not too sure about that. I don't really believe it until I see it. But right now, he's still very questionable, according to Yahoo Sports. So we'll see if that really comes into play, if he is going to play or not. And if he doesn't play, that's going to be something. Oh, and it was already proven healthy, so he should be back. Yep, so he's going to be expected to start in this game. He is. I just looked up there now because I did hear something about him playing today. So that's why I wanted to double check real quick to see if he was playing. So they say he's healthy. His stats look healthy, and he's expected to start in week 7. That's a little bit scary for me to start someone that, had his life on the line just a few short weeks ago, and now he's already expected to play in week 7 of football. That's still very early in the season. I don't know. That's still kind of concerns me, but I'm taking the Dolphins to win though. I like what the Dolphins do have. The Dolphins are better than I expected them to be. I was not expecting the Dolphins to have this much talent or at least be this good this early in the season. The reason why they lost three straight is very simple. Is because they didn't have their starting quarterback of Tua. Teddy Bridgewater was not really anything special for this team. Didn't really help this team a lot. And then you had Skylar Thompson, who played not even a full game. I guess one full game because Bridgewater got hurt the first game against the Jets, the first play of the game against the Jets, and he didn't even play all that much again when they played last week against the Vikings either. I believe, he had like 13 passes, so it didn't really get a lot of time into that. So that's why they lost three straight. I'm taking the Dolphins to win. I think they win at home. It's tough to play in Miami this early in the season where the heat plays a big factor for this team. And the Steelers are just overall just not a very good team. No matter who you have a quarterback, no matter who's playing for you, the Steelers are just not a very good team. That's why I'm taking the Dolphins, but it's going to be a low scoring. I believe it's going to probably be like a 10-3, 10-6, 13-6 kind of a low scoring game on Sunday night. That's my prediction. I think that's how low scoring of a game it's really going to be. And as far as the Tua thing goes, we'll see how that really pans out. I'm gonna pray very heavily this weekend for Tua to just be ensured that he does not get hurt in this game. That's what really concerns me the most about the Dolphins starting Tua this early after being hurt like only like 3 weeks ago. That concerns me a little bit, but it's what they do. I'll take the Dolphins to win. I would avoid betting against the spread for this game and would probably just focus more on the over-under because I could easily see this game being the under for this game. It's going to be a tough, low-scoring defensive game, and it's going to be Tua's first game back, so he might be a little bit shaky. All right, in the last game for Week 7, we've got the Chicago Bears, the Bear Down, to face the New England Patriots, a very unique, a very interesting, and very physical New England team who are favored by 7.5 points. This is simple. I'm taking the Patriots. The Patriots have 2 straight wins in a row. Yes, they didn't play. They played the Lions and the Browns, who aren't really, both teams are really not all that special. But their defense is what really keeps them into this game. I think Jack Jones is playing phenomenal football. He could be the best defensive player for this defense. Matthew Judon, who's been playing really well too. Their corner, secondary, run defense too, which is surprising because that's kind of where they're lacking from last year, which is a little bit surprising to me. But that's nice to see them finally, being able to keep up with the run and stopping it. As far as the offense for the Patriots goes, it's very underrated also. I think Bailey Zappi is a good, serviceable backup that does a lot of really good things for this team. I believe he's going to be playing in this game. I think Mac Jones is still very questionable to come back in this game. But again, I'm going to look at that real quick, just like I did with Tua. We'll see how that goes. So he is questionable. It's definitely not out of the picture that Mac probably wouldn't play, but also it's not really like highly, important if Mac does come back because I think you can win this game with or without Mac. So that's why I'm taking the Patriots. The Bears just don't have anything really that makes me say, wow, this is the team to beat. They just don't. They don't have anything that really wows me or anything that really impresses me. That's why I'm going with the Patriots. Bill Belichick is going to find ways to give Justin Fields and this dreadful Bears offense, give them crap. He's going to give them a lot of crap. That's what I'm taking on that one. The Patriots to cover and to win the straight up. And with all that being said, folks, that is all of my Week 7 picks for the 2022 season of Week 7. If you haven't already and you're still on this YouTube channel, please drop a like on this video, leave a comment down below, guys. I really like to have some conversations with you about football. I want you guys to be involved in everything that I do with football. I want you guys to be able to do the best that you possibly can to help me make this YouTube channel the best that it possibly could be. So drop a like, hit that comment button down below, comment. Let me know which content you would like to see from me in the future. And if you would not have already, guys, I have not had any subscribers in a while. So this is your opportunity to also hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell. So that way, anytime I go live or I post new content on this YouTube channel, you will be able to see it and you will be able to watch anything that you would like. So like, comment, subscribe. Simple as that, right? Simple. All right. So with all that being said, I am logging off for the night. Thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. This is your boy JP Football Fanatic saying peace out, everybody, and we will see you all next time for the next reaction recap video. And if I do have any new content that does go on this weekend, I will post it on my YouTube channel here or my Facebook, and I will let you guys know as far as if any new content is going to be happening this weekend or not. I know I've been talking about it for weeks, and I'm going to try and make some time to do it this weekend. But I do want to make a video. I want to talk about fantasy football, and I do want to be able to talk about my lineups so far for the 3 leagues that I'm in this year. So that's what I'm going to be trying to do during the weekend or before the weekend starts. So with all that being said, thank you, everybody, for tuning in. God bless you all. Thank you so much, and we will see you all next time. Thank you.